Back, I'm here with Tariq Khdeir and his mother, Suha Khdeir, and you were in East Jerusalem. It's the eastern part of Jerusalem. It's the part controlled by the Palestinian Authority. It's part of the West Bank, but it's just right on the border with Israel, and there's actually fairly easy movement between the two, which is part of what led to what happened. Your cousin is abducted. You find out, the word comes in that he has been killed, and there are street protests. There's a lot of anger. You are taken by the Israeli police. Tell me what the scene is like. Why are you out in the street? There were some people who were looking at this tape of you, and they were saying, well, he must have been up to no good. There were people throwing rocks. What were you doing out there?
Well, I was watching everything, because at that point, I really wanted to know where my cousin was, and I was speechless. I couldn't realize, is this really happening? I wanted to know. Like, I couldn't go back inside because I wanted to know. I was watching the police come and more police, and then they bring the military cars, and when that happened, I started to get scared on the inside, because I was like, there's something really scary gonna happen.
So where were you and when we see that video of you with the police? What was happening at that moment?
Well, at that moment, I was in an alley watching from the side view of the protest. And
the protest, his death had been announced. People were protesting in response to that, right? There were protests on the street. There were people chanting. There were people throwing rocks. There was clashes back and forth, correct?
At that point, I was watching, and there were people around me. It just that at that point, they surrounded all of us, so like we had no way out.
So you were with a bunch of other people?
Yes, but these other people that were with me, they were watching too. Like, we were, like, at this point, there were some people that did some bad things and took some bad choices, and at that point, there were some people that wanted to understand what's going on and why is it happening to us. Right, and so I looked to my left, and I saw some people running and screaming, and behind them I saw soldiers, and so everybody panicked, and they're like, there's soldiers, there's soldiers. Some people left the alley, and some people jumped the fence, and I didn't know what to do. I wanted to get out the way, so I jumped the fence, and I fell at the fence. I fell out over the fence, and I ran a little further, and they grabbed me and slammed me on the floor, and I was screaming because I was confused at that point. I'm like I didn't know what was happening to me. I thought I was dreaming, and then they kept beating me, and I was screaming, and I was awake half of the time, and then they kept kicking me in the face, and I kept screaming at them while they were kicking me and punching me in the face, and then they kicked me in the ribs. And they kept getting, like, fierce. So at that, and then, no, while they were beating me, I couldn't have a chance to move because they zip-tied my arms together, and then they started beating me.
You can see where.
So when did you hear about what had happened to your son?
Well, I was at my cousin's house mourning the death of her son, and the whole family was there. I didn't hear right away. Like, there was some talk of, some kids, being arrested. And I just, I didn't really mind that, like, not thinking,
right.
My son, but I was concerned at the same time. I'm like, why are they arresting the kids, So my uncle came to me and he said, your son's in jail. And I was shocked. I was, I didn't want to believe it, because he's a kind of a jokester, sometimes, like my uncle.
Right.
I mean, so until my other cousin came in, and then she told me, yeah, he's in.
He was released from jail. How long were you in jail?
For, I think, 4 days. 4
days, released after the State Department had expressed concern, after the tape was made public, right?
Right.
That was made public. The State Department expressed concern. You were then released only after that, right?
Right.
On house arrest for 9 days.
Yes.
Were you charged with anything?
Well, at that point, I didn't know what was happening. I just heard from my mom that you're going to be on house arrest. You're going to be far away from the town. You can't be with your family. And I was like, at that point, I didn't know what to do. Like, my vacation has been ruined, and everything was just wrong.
How did this, was Tariq charged?
No,
he was not
charged with anything.
He was released with no charges.
That's what I was confused about. I mean, I was in the courtroom, and I thought he was just going to be released, you know, having the U.S. consular right next to me. And then all of a sudden, she's like, you know, he's going to be on house arrest for 9 days with a bail as well.
And after that 9 days release, there are no charges.
No charges.
Outstanding. You are now home. Your family is still in East Jerusalem.
Yes.
And still living with the reverberating repercussions of what is turning into a brutally ugly summer. I mean, this happens to Palestinians every day. Tariq was just one of the lucky ones that happened to be a U.S. citizen, and somebody happened to get it on tape as well. So this is like a normal occurring, you know, thing every day that happens to the Palestinian people. What did you learn this summer? What do you take away from all this?
Well, after all that happened to me, at that point, I was like, I just got a taste of what they're going through. What happened to me was just a little. Like, what they're going through, they have people dying in Gaza, and they have people dying and suffering. They're being kicked out of their homes. It's tough over there.
Tariq Abu Khdeir and Suha Khdeir, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story, and best of luck the rest of the summer, Tariq, all right? Stay safe. We did that interview an hour ago. I'm still struck by the poise of that young man. I should note that there is tremendous poise and grace exhibited by the families of the 3 Israelis who were murdered, those yeshiva students, some calling for empathy in the face of terrible, terrible reprisal and violence over there. It's tough over there, as Tariq said. That is all in